Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create your sign-up form using MERN stack. So let's start. In the previous video, I have shown you how to create the basic design of this login and sign-up form. You can get that video in the description. I will attach the link there. After watching that video, come to this video and see the logic behind the sign-up form. At first, I am going to my VS Code. So this was our signup.jsx file. Now let's minimize this client folder and we will create the new folder for the backend, which is the server folder. So server. Now in the terminal, I will come to the server folder and here I will just initialize the package.json file. For that, I have to give this command npm init while. Enter. I will paste this command npm install mongoose express cors decrypt.env nodemon. What are these used for, I will tell as I go through this project. So enter, and at first let's install all these dependencies so that we are ready to work with it. The node modules folder has arrived inside our server folder, so all the dependencies are installed. To check once, go to the package.json file and check that the dependencies are decrypt cors.env express mongoose nodemon. Now let's create the main file from where our server will start running, that is the index.js file. At first we will import the necessary libraries. So const express equals to require express. Let's save it. Then const mongoose equals to require mongoose. So express is basically a layer built on top of the Node.js that will help us to manage the server and the routing. And mongoose is nothing but a JavaScript object-oriented programming library that will create a connection between the MongoDB and the Node.js JavaScript runtime environment. So this mongoose will create a connection between the MongoDB Atlas and the Node.js application. Now one more thing we need is the cors. Const cors equals to require cors. Cors is a mechanism by which the front-end client can make requests for resources to an external backend server. So to connect the front-end with the backend, we are using cors, and cors stands for cross-origin resource sharing. Next, decrypt is a library to help you hash passwords. So whenever you will enter the password, you will make the hash of it and it will store the hashed password in the database instead of the normal plain text password. It is commonly used to store passwords in the database. Next is .env. .env is used to manage our environment variables like the URL, front-end URL, backend URL and the MongoDB URI. For the environment variables, I will create a .env file inside my server folder. In the .env file, I will mention the port number for the backend. Then I will mention the Mongo URI, which I will just show you how to get. For now, let's keep it blank. Then we will have the front-end URL. We will get the front-end URL when we will run the front-end. Now we will initialize the Express application. Then we will pass Express.json inside app.use. This line will set up the middleware for the Express application to parse incoming JSON payloads. Next, we will use cors. As we already know that cors is a middleware, it will enable the routes in our application, allowing any domain to make requests to our server. So the front end will communicate with the back end and vice versa using the cors. Now let's connect our Node.js application or Express.js application with the MongoDB Atlas. So I will use this function mongoose.connect, and inside this I will use the MongoDB URI which I have defined here in .env. I will show you how to connect it later. First I will use this Mongo URI and I will paste it here. So as it connects with the MongoDB URI, then connect it to MongoDB. And if not, if the connection is not successful, .catch display the error in the console. As we have connected our Express application, which runs on top of Node.js, to the MongoDB Atlas using this middleware Mongoose, we are showing the success message connected to MongoDB, and if there is an error, it will also show fail to connect to MongoDB. Next, what we will do, we will run our Express server. So we will use app.listen function, and inside that we will send the port number. If you remember, this port number is mentioned inside environment variables 3001, so the server will run on this particular port. Then we will use the fat arrow function, and we will display this message server is running on port number, and this particular port number process.env.port. Let's save it. Now let's create our MongoDB connection. Now let's get the MongoDB URI from the MongoDB Atlas. As you can see, this is how the MongoDB Atlas looks. If you are not familiar with this, I would suggest you to watch this video once, how to connect Node.js with MongoDB Atlas with Mongoose. So the code snippet here is almost same as this one. For that video, the code until this connection is almost same. Okay, so if you watch that video, this video first, I will mention the link in the description, then you will have a good idea, because I will not show the whole steps here. What I will do is, I already have a project created. Okay, if you don't have a project created, create a project with the free trial version, and as you can see, Signup to is the project name, and then I have to go to the network access at first to check whether the network access is given correctly or not. Make sure you add your IP address here. If nothing is showing here, you have to click on add IP address, and then you have to click on add current IP address. See, the current IP address is added, and then click on confirm. It will take some time for this pending state to change to active status. So once the status becomes active, that means you can now connect your Atlas with your Node.js application. In case your connection is not working for some reason, you can just click on add IP address, and you can click on allow access from anywhere, so that from anywhere, any IP address or any desktop, laptop, you can access this particular MongoDB Atlas connection, and click on confirm. As you can see, I have come to the database section of this project Signup to. You also have to come to the database section of the project you created. After watching this video, you will get to know how to create your project and start to MongoDB Atlas for the first time. Then you need to connect this Atlas with your VS Code. Click on connect. In that video also you will get the process, but I am just telling you again. Click on MongoDB, and here is the connection string. Copy this connection string, and in place of this password, you have to paste the password of your choice which you have given previously, okay, while creating the user for the particular cluster. So this connection string I will paste. I'm again suggesting you to watch that video before, otherwise you will not be able to follow this. In my case, the password I have given previously while creating the user for this project was catdogmongo, so I am just pasting that password. Now let's come to the index.js. Now I will run this application, but before running this application, if you remember, I have installed NodeMon. So why we are using NodeMon is it will support the hot reload in Node.js backend applications. That means nothing but we don't need to halt and restart our application for changes to take effect. We can run our application once, and whenever we will make any changes, it will be automatically reflected to the output as we save it. Okay, so we don't have to run it again and again if we use NodeMon. Now for using NodeMon, we have to make one change in package.json file, that is, inside the scripts, we have to add this NodeMon. We have to add the starting script, how to start the application. Start NodeMon index.js. The application will start from this file index.js, right? We have to tell that to this Express application. So let's save it. Now let's run. We are inside the server folder, as you can see. If you are not inside, then navigate inside the server folder and type npm start. As you can see, there comes an error. It's showing that Mongo URI is not defined, but it's already defined in the environment variables. So what's the error? The error is we have not used the process.env function. So if we don't use that, then it can't get where it is. Process.env, we have to tell the application that we have to get the URI from this env file. So let's save it. Now the server is running on port number 3001 and the application is also connected with MongoDB Atlas. So our connection to MongoDB Atlas is successful. Now let's create the signup logic. I will go to the signup.jsx file. Here I will come to the text fields and I will give the attribute required so that the person cannot leave it blank, and click on the submit button. After adding required to the fields, we will assign a particular name to each field. So name equals to name. Name equals to email. Name equals to password. And now we will store the value which will be passed to this particular fields inside a particular variable to send it to the backend. For storing the value, we will use a React hook named useState. So we have to import the useState. It will be imported automatically as we will use. So what we will do is, I will use const name this is the name comma set name equals to useState, and by default the value will be blank. So what this hook will do is, it will use this current state and it will use this function to update the current state. So suppose we have this variable name and we have this variable set name. How I will use is, I will go to this particular text field and here I will use the function onChange, means as the value inside this text field changes, it will send the value which is stored in E, for example. It will store the value and it will send it to the setName function. And what value it will store is, E doesn't have the value, E is just the object. So E.target.value will be sent to this setName function, and this function will update the value of this name. So whatever name we type in that particular field, this function will update the value inside name and it will be stored in this name variable. Similarly, for this text field email also, we will use this function onChange. For this password also, we will use this function onChange. But what we have to do, we have to use different function. Suppose set email and set password. But we have not defined the use states for this. Let's define it. So the final name, email and password will be stored in this variable name, email and password. Well, let's run the front-end application to see whether if there is any error or not. So I will split this window or the terminal, and I will navigate inside client and I will give the command npm run dev. I will copy this URL and I will paste it in my browser. I will click on sign up form. As you can see, the sign up form is visible, so there is no error in our code for now. So as we will submit the form, a particular function will be triggered. On submitting this form, I will use the handle submit function. So as this handle submit function will be triggered, now let's see what's the output. See, the output is not showing in the inspect window. We will see that the handle sign up function is not defined. So now we have to define the handle sign up function. Let's define the handle sign up function. I will use const handle Okay, I gave the wrong name. Sign up it will be. So const handle sign up, fat arrow key, like this. Okay, and we will send the object inside it. Next, we will prevent the default behavior of the form so that it doesn't get submitted without sending the values. Now, to get the backend URL, we will use Axios. Axios.post, and we will send the backend URL here. What is the backend URL? If you remember, it's 3001. So this is the backend URL, and where we will go is we will go to this sign up route. I have not defined this function for the particular sign up route in the backend yet, but I will define that later. So using Axios, we will send our front-end data to the backend. Now what we will send is, we will send name, email, password. So this line is basically an HTTP post request. As you can see, I have used the function post. So this is a HTTP post request to send the data from the front end to the backend. In this particular server, the backend is running. So I have mentioned that particular port, and the particular route to which it will go is sign up route. And if it's successful, then we will definitely get a response from the backend, and it will be stored in the result. From the result, we will check if the result, okay, now let's not define this at first. Let's keep it like this. Okay, for now, let's keep it like this. Let's define the function in the backend for the sign up route. I am in my index.js file, and now I will define the function for the sign up route in the backend. So I will use this function app.post, since signup is a post request, post HTTP request. So I will use this function post, and inside that I will mention this route signup. So as I go to this signup route, this function will be triggered. Then we will use this asynchronous function. So we will use async await for this particular signup function. What it will do is, it will wait for a particular function to finish, and in this case I will wait for the bcrypt function to finish. What the bcrypt function is, we will see as I go through. Then this will be the fat arrow key, and inside that I will use the try catch function. And then what this line does is, it is called array destructuring. So as you can see in the signup.jsx file, we send the name, email, password as a response to the backend. So the backend will get it as a request, and the request.body will contain the name, email, password. So the request.body will store the name, email, password in these 3 separate variables, and we will use those variables in our function. Then we will log this name, email, and password in our console so as to see whether everything is correct or not. Then we will check that whether the particular user exists with this particular email or not. We cannot have 2 users with the same email in our application. So to find that, we will use await. See, we are using await to wait for this user model to find the particular document in the MongoDB Atlas with this particular email. So it will search for this particular email, and if it gets any document with this matching email, it will put some value in this existing user. And if this existing user exists, so if this existing user has a value, what we will do is, we will return the response status as 400. As you know, a response status 400 means a bad request. So after that, we will also send a response in the form of JSON, and it will contain this error message, email already exists. After that, we will use the hash password variable. We will take a hash password variable to store our hashed password, and we will use the bcrypt function. So what this bcrypt function will do is, it will convert our plain text password to a hashed code, and we will use 10 as our salt number. So this salt number is nothing but it depicts the complexity of the hashing algorithm. So the higher the number is, the more complex the hashed password will be. After that, we will use the new user variable, and inside this we will store the new user model with the name, email, and password. So we will create a new model with this particular name, email, and password, and the password we will pass this hashed password. But we have created this new user model, but we have not saved in the MongoDB Atlas. So to save it, we will use this await function, new user.save. This save function will save our new document to the particular database. And we are awaiting, like we are waiting for the particular user to be saved in the database. So we are using this await function. After that, I will return, see if the user creation is successful. I have to return this 201 status code. This status code 201 means user created successfully. And in response, I will send this saved user to the front end. After that, if there is some kind of error, suppose the connection to the MongoDB fails. So there is kind of internal error, right? In that case, we will catch that error in the catch part and we will send the response status 500. And we will also send this error message in the form of JSON to the front end. Let's save it. Now, as we have defined the function, post function for the signup route in the backend, we will utilize the error codes sent to the front end in our signup handle signup function. Well, before that, I have not imported the Axios, so I have to import it first. Import Axios from Axios. If you remember that I have not installed Axios in my client system, so I have to first install the Axios. I will come to another terminal. Here I will go inside client. And here I will install npm install Axios. After installing Axios, let's see whether it's running perfectly or not. So there is no error in the UI. That means the Axios is installed successfully and it can access it properly. So if you remember, I have used the Axios.post HTTP method to send the front-end data to the backend, and the backend will send a particular status code based on the condition, right? We have made that function just now. So based on that particular status code, we will frame our condition. So if result will contain the response, so result dot status equal to 201, that means user created, right? So we will navigate to, okay, for navigating to login page, we have to use a particular React hook, which is use navigate. So we also have to import use navigate. Okay. And we will define that particular use navigate here. So const navigate equals to use navigate. Use navigate function of the React router DOM will help us to navigate to different routes inside the application. So if the status code is 201, that means console.log user created successfully, and along with this console.log message, I will navigate to the login page. So if the sign up is successful, I will go to the login page. So what I will do is, I will use this navigate function to go to the particular login route. The login route is /login. Let's save it. So this is if we get a response, but if we don't get a response, there is some kind of error. So we will catch that error in the catch part and we will take the error, and if the error response status code, we will check with the status code error dot response. If the error has a response and if the status code which is the response is 400, then 400 means bad request, right? And what was the logic in that case is, if the user already exists, then we will send this error code 400. So we also have to display an alert to the customer that if the response status code is 400, if you remember in the backend, I checked for existing user, and if the user with this particular email already exists, then it will send this status code 400, which means a bad request. But We also have to tell the customer that okay, your email already exists, so you cannot create the user account with the same email which already exists. For that we have to display an alert. I will use window dot alert email already exists, please use a different email. Okay, so this response we will send to the customer in the alert box. And what if there is some internal server error? Suppose the connection to the MongoDB database is not created successfully for some reason. Okay, so in the else part, what we will do, we will just console.log the error. Now let's see the output. Okay, so in the output we got an error that use navigate is not a function. Let's see. Okay, we have imported the use navigate from the wrong thing. It should be imported from React router DOM and not from React. So import use navigate from React router DOM, and also we have to import this Axios. I commented this by mistake. Now let's see the output. Okay, now everything is visible properly. There is no console error also. So we are done with this handle sign up function. Now the only thing we are left is to define the user model. As you have seen previously, I have used this new user model. But from where we are getting this? We have not defined anything for that. For that, I have to define the user model. So inside the server, I will create a folder named model. And inside this model folder, I will create user.js. So inside this user.js file, I will define the Mongoose schema to store the name, email and password in the MongoDB database. But before that, we have to create a MongoDB database because we have not created a MongoDB database for our application. So I will come to the .env file, and here beside the MongoDB URI, I will give the name of the MongoDB database. So this is our sign up to project. If you don't know how to create a project, I have told you previously, watch this video first and then come here. So inside this project, I will have a number of clusters. So this is my cluster 0, and don't forget to give the network access to your application or to your system, otherwise it will not reflect any change. So I am coming to database section, and here I have to browse collections. Inside the browser collections, we can see a number of databases. Let's create another database for our project. Here I will click on create database. I will give the database name user credentials. This will be our database name, and the collection name I will give users. Okay. So if you don't know the concept, I will just tell you once that as we create our project, suppose sign up to, in my case, we will have a number of clusters. Okay. In my case, it's cluster 0. So as I go inside my cluster, I can create a number of databases. And inside this particular database user credentials, I can create a number of collections. The first collection I am creating is users. So for now, I will need only one collection inside a database. So I am creating it. Click on create. Now we have our database, but we have not connected this particular database with our system. So I will go to my VS Code. And this is my .env file. Here beside the MongoDB URI, I will give this name user credentials. User credentials. Okay, let's save it and see. Let's save the index.js file and see whether server is running on port 3001 is coming or not. See, the successful message came. So the spelling is correct and it connected with this particular document or particular database. Sorry. User credentials, the spelling is also correct. Now to define the user schema, I have to import the Mongoose library because I will use the Mongoose schema to define it. So const Mongoose equals to require Mongoose. So I have imported the Mongoose library. After that, I will define the user schema. So what the user schema will contain? Const user. So I will copy the name from the front end which I have previously used. Well, I have not used anything here, so I have to give a name of my choice. User schema equals to new mongoose, and then we will use the function schema from mongoose. So we are creating an object of the mongoose schema for now. Here what we will store is, we will store the name of type string, then we will store email of type string, then we will store password of type string. Let's save it. After that, we will use const user model. So this is a variable where I will store the user model. So how to create the user model? I will use mongoose dot model function, and inside this function I will pass the name of the collection which I have created. So if you remember, in the user credentials database I have created a collection named users. So I will give this name users, and I will pass the schema user schema. So this user schema and this user schema is same. I will pass it here, and then I will export this using module dot exports user model. After this, we also have to import this user model in index.js. If you remember, previously I have used the new user model to store the name, email, password, but I have not imported it. So let's import. I will use this same name user model which I have used previously to store the user schema, and I will import it using require dot slash. I will go inside the model folder and then inside this user.js file. Let's save it. Let's see whether the path is correct or not. Well, the path is not correct because, okay, I have not typed the correct spelling. Yeah, let's see whether I can go inside it. Yeah, I can go inside it. So the path is correct. And as you can see, the server is again running successfully. Previously it was showing some error because of this wrong require spelling. Now let's see whether our sign up functionality is working correctly or not. Let's go to our UI. So this is our Vite application. I have kept this console open to see the error if anything comes. So I am in my sign up page, and at first I am entering a name, suppose R. I'm entering an email, suppose r@gmail.com, and I'm entering a password, and I'm clicking on sign up. And hurrah, as you can see, I have come to the login page. So on successful sign up, it will show the login page. And as you can see, login successful showing in the console. But let's see whether it's reflecting in the database or not. As you can see, previously users collection has 0 documents. So no documents are available here. But let's refresh it. As you can see, the new document is created with the name R. This is the object ID. This will be unique every time we create a new user or a new document. This is the hashed password using the bcrypt function. This is the email. Okay. So we are done with our sign up functionality. In the next video, I will show you how to create the login, and in the next video, I will show you how to use session to log out and log in. So that's all for today. If you like this video, share it with your friends and family. Like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching my video. Have a nice day.